Hey there, Big Boss here from MGSZone.com, and in today's video I will teach you the full CQC tactics and moves for MGS5, the Phantom Pain. Now, as you know, CQC stands for Close Quarters Combat, and in the Metal Gear Solid world it is a technique developed by the boss and the Big Boss in the 1950s. It's absolutely essential for survival on the battlefield, so let's dive in and master all these moves. In this video, we will go over 7 different concepts. We're going to talk about luring an enemy, restraining an enemy, interrogation tactics, throwing an enemy, holding up an enemy, disarming an enemy, and also using CQC to pummel an enemy, which results in a knockout. So just remember those keywords and it's going to allow you to easily master these moves. So let's start off by understanding how we can lure an enemy so they can come towards us, and then we can go ahead and restrain the enemy. So once you're leaned against an object, you can press L1 and that brings up the menu, and then you can use the right stick to choose the option you want and then press the right stick to actually execute that option. So let's go closer towards that guy over there, lean against that rock, and then we're going to lure him towards us by using a sound, and then we are going to restrain this guy immediately. So there he is, and let's lean over. Then press L1, choose knock, and press the right stick. And as you can see, he's been alerted. He's going to come over to investigate, and then we're going to press R2 to immediately restrain this guy. Okay, so you press and hold R2, and that is called restraint. And now what I'm doing is I'm dragging a restrained enemy around, which you can also do. Make sure you press and hold the R2 button. If you let it go, he's going to escape. So let's drag this guy a little bit more over there. And what I'm going to show you now is, now we're going to talk about the interrogation tactics. As you can see, we have 3 options. We can press L1, R2, or the triangle. And if you do press L1, it brings up the interrogation menu. You can ask this guy to spit it out. He'll give you some intel, or you can tell him to tell you the location of his comrades, which you can then use to recon the area more informed. Now if you press R2, that's going to choke this guy. Once you choke a person, they lose consciousness and they fall flat on the floor, as you can see. So this guy's knocked out. What we can do is we can press R2, and that's going to kick this guy, and it's going to actually wake him up, and then he'll try to get up, and as soon as he gets up, we can restrain this guy again by pressing and holding the R2 button. And the next thing I'm going to show you guys is how to throw an enemy that has been restrained. Okay, so to actually throw a restrained enemy, you have to use the left stick, and you can point the left stick to any direction, and then what you have to do is release R2 and re-tap it, and that's going to slam the enemy on the floor, which is called throwing the enemy, as you just saw happened. Now again, when you throw the enemy on the floor, they get knocked out, and again you can press R2, you can tap R2 to kick this guy. He's going to wake up again. And let me just show you one more time on how to slam the enemy on the floor. So let's do an R2. He's been restrained. Point the stick to any direction that you want, and then release R2 and tap R2 again, and he gets slammed on the floor. Now you can also slam people against objects. So if I grab this guy and I take him close to a wall, and if I do the same thing, if I point the left stick towards the wall and then tap the R2 button, he's going to slam this guy against the wall. So let me show you how that is done as well. So I'm going to hold the left stick towards the wall, and I'm going to tap R2, and he slams the guy against the wall. Let me show you that one more time against another wall. And you can do this towards any object. You can do this toward the rock, towards the tires that we just saw a couple minutes ago, or towards the wall that we're doing right now. Okay, and let's do it right here. Boom. He gets slammed towards the wall, gets knocked out. And the final thing I want to show you guys is when you restrain the enemy, you got the third option, the triangle option. If you tap that, he stabs the enemy right in the chest and the enemy dies. So once the enemy is dead, we want to pick him up, and you want to make sure you actually hide this guy. So if you carry the guy like this and press R2, he actually throws the enemy. So we threw the enemy in the grass, so he's hidden. Let's go and harass this other guy, and I'm going to show you some other tactics. Alright, so next up I'm going to show you guys how to hold up an enemy. You simply sneak behind the enemy and you press L2 which brings up your weapon, and the enemy puts his weapon on the floor and raises his hands. And now you can actually come closer and you can press L1, which brings up the interrogation menu. You can interrogate this guy, get some intel. You can tell this guy to get on the floor, or any of the other options you see on the screen, and you use the right stick to choose the options. Or you can just restrain this guy again by pressing R2. So you can transition back and forth. You can hold up an enemy, you can restrain the enemy, and then you can let him go, and you can hold him up again if you so desire. So let me demonstrate. So let's release R2 and then press L2, and again, now he's being held up. Okay, so we transitioned from a restrained to a hold up. So let me go towards the front of this guy. I'm going to show you something that happens when you're holding up somebody from the front. So watch that guy's hands. If you stop pointing the gun at him, he's going to slowly lower his hands and he's going to try to attack you. So make sure when he does that, you pull up your gun again by pressing the L2 button. Look at that. Let's see that one more time. There we go. So make sure he does not have enough time to grab his weapon, because he will attack you. He'll try to stab you if he has a knife. He's going to shoot you if he has a handgun. So just watch out. Okay, so the next move is called Disarming an Enemy, which is one of the most exciting CQC tactics. So let's sneak behind this guy and disarm him. And the way you do that is you tap R2 and you tap L2 in succession, and that initiates a disarming sequence. So R2, L2. And you got this weapon, and then it transitions to a hold up. Okay, so when you disarm an enemy, it disarms the guy, takes his gun, and quickly transitions the whole procedure into a hold up. And then you can do everything that you normally can after a hold up. Now you can practice disarming even if the guy does not have a weapon. So just tap R2 and tap L2 and watch the disarming sequence play out. You simply pull your own gun. And sometimes if you do this too many times, the guy gets knocked out, because as you understand, you are actually hitting this guy over and over to disarming. So if you do it a couple times, you know, he can't take it anymore and he gets knocked out. So let's kick this guy up. I'm going to wake him up. And the next thing I'm going to show you guys is how to throw an enemy. And this is more advanced. So basically, if you're running towards an enemy, you just tap R2 and Snake performs a CQC takedown. Well, a throw. So let's do that one more time. I'm going to be running towards this guy. Tap R2. Boom. You throw this guy on the floor. He gets slammed and gets knocked out. Let's do this a couple more times. So I'm going to charge towards him from a distance. R2. Okay, you don't have to hold the R2 button. You just tap it and let it go. And that initiates the sequence of a throw. Now in the beginning of this guide, I was restraining enemies and I was throwing them on the floor from a restrained position. But in this case, you're running towards an enemy and you're throwing them from an active perspective. Now there's going to be a couple different throwing animations possible, and it's going to depend on which side you're approaching the enemy from. So if you're running towards the enemy from the back side or from the front side or from his left or right, you may get different animation sequences for the throw. Check this out. He flips the guy and just slams him on the floor real hard. So I encourage you guys to go and try that out. And let me show you one more thing. Let me throw this guy against the wall. Actually, let's put him on the floor. And let's kick him to wake him up. There we go. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to throw this guy. But because there's a wall behind him, he's going to be slammed towards the wall. Okay, so all I did was perform a throw. But because there was a wall right behind him, he got slammed into it and got knocked out. And if you can do this to anybody, towards any object. And finally, let's talk about pummeling somebody, which is CQC combat. So basically, you simply mash the R2 button until the enemy is knocked out. You have two options. If you do it from the front side, as you can see right now, you get a longer sequence of CQC. Now if you actually go behind the guy and initiate the pummeling from the back side, then you're going to get a shorter version. So let me show you. Let me run behind this guy. R2, R2, R2. And as you can see, in 3 moves, we knock the guy out. Now if you do this from the front, it actually takes 5, 6, or 7 moves to knock this guy out. Watch this. And that's it. So that's it, guys. I mean, these are all the things you need to know to master this game as far as CQC is concerned. And you should know CQC perfectly because it makes the game much more enjoyable. So just remember, you can lure enemies, you can restrain enemies, you can throw down enemies while they're restrained, or even if you're running towards an enemy, you can just grab them and throw them on the floor. You can hold up enemies, and you can also disarm enemies. Just remember the keywords and the combos, and remember, practice makes perfect. Alright, so thank you for watching this video, guys. Again, this is Big Boss from mgszone.com. You can visit our website if you want to, and also subscribe to our channel for more videos to come.